Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "Did you really booty trap a parking spot?" I am going to try my hand at this. I hope you liked my Goonies reference in the title. So I live in Chicago and parking is horrible. My street happens to be one of the few in my neighborhood with free parking, and so I have to deal with people claiming their spot all the time by putting a chair or traffic cone in it, despite most of them living blocks away. And by the way guys, not gonna lie, that sounds like German people claiming chairs at a pool on vacation. Anyway, but this is not about them. Our new downstairs neighbors started renovating in November. They haven't moved in yet, and they've been absolutely disrespectful and discourteous to us the whole time. They hired a questionable contractor who leaves our shared front door open, turns off our electricity and gas randomly, and leaves the garbage from their renovations strewn around the sidewalk outside the building. Plus they work from 8 AM to noon on Saturdays directly below my room, which I give a little leeway for, but why not noon to 4 PM? At first we tried to give our new neighbors a heads up that this kind of stuff was going on, but rather than address the issues they denied it and even claimed we were photoshopping when we provided pictures for proof. Q emails to other HOA members about how we were slandering them, but we had photo proof. Back to parking, one day I am coming home from work and notice a nice big parallel parking spot right in front of my building. Great. As I pull up, I notice something on the ground in the spot. It is the old plywood floorboard, clearly from our new neighbor's floor, with hundreds of nails still in it, all facing up. The contractors were serious about claiming the spot so they could park their giant van there in the morning. F that. I don't believe in claiming a parking spot at all, let alone overnight. It is technically illegal too, so I move it onto the grass next to the spot and park. I go upstairs and regale my petty heroism to my roommates and find that they'd been considering calling the police because a 4x8 with nails in it is really too far, but one, just 5 minutes before, had said to the other, "Don't worry, someone like OP will come along and be like, F that." You better believe it, sister. The next morning I exit the building to go to work and see that the huge van intended for the spot I took is haphazardly parked a few spaces behind me, with the front end in the spot and the rear taking up a whole lane of the street. The hazard lights were on. I get home at the end of the day and park without incident. The van is gone. My roommate, who had been home the whole day, enthusiastically informed me of the events of the day. The van sat there with the hazards on until the battery died just after noon. Not long after, a police officer showed up because a van had been blocking the road for 6 hours and wrote them a ticket and told them to move it. But the battery was dead. Apparently, they couldn't get a jump in a reasonable time or something. Roommate is not a lip reader, because they ended up getting towed. The best part? The new neighbors are probably never going to move in because we have been so much trouble. And I gotta say guys, claiming a parking spot that is not your parking spot with a board full of nails, that is really next level neighbors from hell if you ask me. And you know what that reminds me of? When I went to university a couple of years ago, I had to take the train every day, and at some point there was some lunatic who apparently thought it is funny to put nails facing upside down on dozens of seats in the train, literally every day. I'm not sure if that dude was ever caught, but damn, some people have some really crazy ideas. And the next one is titled, "There Can Be Only One." I work for big satellite TV company doing residential installs for satellite TV. Several months ago, I did an install at a duplex in a small town for a nice Filipino lady, now FL. She told me how happy she was to be in Canada and how her husband had worked for several years to bring her and their family, 4 young kids, into the country. These things made me happy, and eager to help her, I proceed with my install. Problem: on the side of the building there is already a dish mounted, and the landlords will not permit me to mount an additional dish. However, I can use the existing dish as it is the same brand and there are 3 ports on it. So I run my cable and hook up her receiver to the existing dish, which belongs to her neighbor, the racist bugger. who from here on shall be known as RB. Everything works out well, and when I leave, the whole family is crowded around the television, changing their channels excitedly. I leave with a smile on my face. About 45 minutes later, after I leave, I get a phone call on my work cell. FL crying, "Someone cut our cable, please come back and fix it." Me, "Sure, no problem," shortened obviously. I get back to her house and the brand new cable I had just ran is cut clean in the middle and is lying loose. I ask FL if she had cut it and she had no idea what had happened. So I decided to inquire with her neighbor. Me, "Hello, do you know anything about this cable?" RB, "Why is that hooked up to my satellite? That," racial expletive, "cannot do that." Rude words and angriness ensues. Me, "Okay, but," explain situation, "there can only be one dish." RB, "Too bad, she cannot use mine." More racial expletives, but you get the drift. Me, "Okay." RB goes inside his house, so I calmly walk over to the dish, remove his cables and the entire assembly. I then mount her dish in the exact same spot and cut his cables just too short to reach. At this point, RB comes out and starts raging at me to hook his TV back up. So I calmly explain to him that I got permission from the landlord to supply FL with the service, and as that is the only dish that they will allow, he will have to ask FL if she will let him use her dish. I smile and leave. And guys, if you have watched until here and enjoy the Neighbor from Hell stories, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support me. Thank you very much in advance, your support means a lot to me and it is really important in order to grow the channel. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And the next one is titled As in a Bottle. 3 years ago, living in a block of apartments in London, nice neighbors and a great apartment. We were only there for 2 years when my son was born, never had any problems previously. 2 weeks after we brought him home, it started. My next door neighbor, whom we have spoken with only on rare occasions, is blaring music full blast at 2 AM. So loud that our windows and the mirror closet doors in our bedroom were shaking with the bass. Naturally, son wakes up and cannot go to sleep until it stopped around 4 AM, thought nothing of it as it never happened before, and us being young, we understood the need to shake the booty every now and then. It was the start of it all. Following that night, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, music blaring to such level that I thought our windows were going to shatter at one point. I had enough after the first weekend this went on. Thursday comes and I knock on our neighbor's door to explain. What started off as a pleasant non-violent conversation came very close to turning into a fistfight until solicitors and lawsuits were mentioned, and I decided a covert solution is the only way. I can't find the product online anymore, but a product called As in a Bottle was for sale. It was clear liquid. When I purchased it, I was skeptical about its effect, but oh, how wrong I was. I bought a large bottle of it and waited for it to arrive. The bottle arrived Thursday morning right in time. I opened the bottle and instantly regretted that decision. It was the most potent sewer-like smell, but over 9,000. I had to open all the windows, spray a bottle of air refreshener and go get a few of the plug-in fresheners to place around the apartment. It took around 6 to 7 hours before the smell started to dissipate. I must admit, I had a grin the whole time, imaging them next door, puking all over the place, the smell not leaving the house for days. This is going to be epic. That night at 2 AM music started. I got up from bed while my wife tried to comfort our son, used another bottle cap with a small hole in the middle and a small plastic hose through it, superglued around the cap to make sure the hose did not fall out or leak. Went out the apartment and fed the hose through the gap at the bottom of the neighbor's door. There was no smell. Damn, I must have clogged up or pinched the hose when putting it together, squeezed the bottle more, but still nothing. Then it hit me, the smell. Oh my god, it was worse than before when I first opened the bottle, and it was all in the hallway. I was after squeezing through about a quarter of the bottle in under the door onto the carpet, which soaked up all the liquid. That was much more than I wanted to put in. I had the hose pulled out and was just about to go back into our apartment when the music stopped and I heard someone gagging uncontrollably. A few seconds later I can hear a woman puking and screaming, "Oh my god, where is it coming from?" And a man shouting in between gagging, "The bathroom, the pipe must be burst." No more music, went back to sleep without any further rude awakenings. Next morning I left for work, and as soon as I opened, the smell hit me again. It was still in the hallway. From outside I could see that all their windows were open. Around 11 AM my wife sent me a text. Damn, the plumber is in next door ripping up their bathroom tiles. There was no music that weekend, so my son got a full night's sleep. It took about 5 days for the smell in the hallway to go. Every time I went past their door, it got stronger, and the following day someone came in and replaced all their carpets. My wife overheard them telling the workers that sewage pipes burst and leaked into the apartment. That night they woke us up again, and again I paid them a stealthy visit. This time though, I squeezed harder to get more out of the bottle, and quicker. Music stopped and we went back to sleep. The plumber was back again. This time all the new carpets were thrown out first thing by the plumber, and he pretty much tore the apartment floors apart looking for the leak. He even asked other residents if they had similar issues. That night we saw them leave the apartment and never return. The apartment went on sale a month later after a new floor and a carpet was put in. 2 months later another lovely couple with a newborn moved in, and we had a great friendship with them for the remainder of our time here. Edit: the apartment was owned by the couple. If it was rented, I would have approached the landlord or the management company instead. The course of action I chose was petty, at least I thought so at the time. I did not expect the effects or the outcome. And maybe guys, in this situation, the acts of revenge might have been petty, but overall the situation is what I would call pro-revenge for sure. Please let me know your opinion about this story in the comments. And the next one is titled, "Want to park your car in my yard and throw down trash? Enjoy your car's new makeover." So my neighbors across the street always park in my yard, and they hang out in their car drinking, smoking weed and blasting rap music. They usually have the cops called on them about twice a month, but usually for getting in fights in their front yard. Well, about a month or so ago they kept me up till about 1 AM partying. Woke up again at 5 AM and they were still going. Well, I wake up at about 7 and it appears that they have gone inside, presumably to finally sleep. So I thought, you keep me up with your music? Enjoy the song of my lawnmower. I start working my way to the edge of my yard where they parked their car and noticed a bunch of blunt wraps and those mini liquor bottles along with some food trash. I instantly became even more enraged until I noticed that their window was left down, so I do a pass by their car and shoot dew-covered shreds of trash on and in their car. And then I heard the blade make contact with one of the bottles, shattering it to pieces and launching the shards directly at the side of their car. By the end of it, my yard was clean and looked great, while the entire right side of their car looked like they parked next to a dumpster that exploded. I saw them a few hours later changing one of their tires. I guess part of that bottle hit its mark. Oh well. And the next one is titled, "Try to intimidate my disabled neighbor. I will make sure you get dropped by your sponsors." So this ended about 4 months ago and still makes me happy whenever I think about it. This might be long, sorry. I've lived in this apartment complex about a year or so, and it is pretty nice, I suppose. My next door neighbor is an older lady who happens to be disabled. While I don't know the actual extent of her disabilities, I know she needs help from time to time, and if I am around I try to help. She's really sweet, and about once a week she will make me a plate of something homemade to eat since I work nights and really don't cook. Her pork chops and fried cabbage are fire. We both live upstairs and she uses a wheelchair, but she can walk up and down the stairs slowly, and if I am around I will carry her wheelchair down, but her daughter usually does it. Her daughter picks her up every morning on her way to work and takes her to this community center every day so she can get out and socialize and such. This is where this guy comes in. I like to call him Young Douche. Young Douche, YD, is your typical piece of crap in that he is super obnoxious in everything. He drives a souped up Subaru that is really loud and plays his music so loud that I can hear the bass from upstairs. Also, he likes to park in the one handicapped spot. Our apartment's management is super crappy and they don't get involved with anything and refuse to get involved with this. Now, before he moved in, my neighbor's daughter used to park in the handicapped spot to pick up her mom, but since this dickhead started parking there, she's had to park in front of his car so she can get her mom. I tried to be nice and left a note on his car, but nothing really changed, but it was no big deal at first. One morning I am asleep and get woken up to this guy just holding down his horn non-stop. My neighbor's daughter had parked in front of him and he could not get out. When I looked outside, I could see him get out and start harassing both my neighbor and her daughter. I could hear him talking crap, so I put some pants on and walked outside to see the dude all in the daughter's face. She's like 4'9", so he's looking down on her like he's gonna punch her. Then my neighbor tried to calm him down and she put a hand on his elbow and he slapped her hand away hard. I saw that and ran downstairs, but as soon as I opened the gate and he saw me, he backed off and got back in his car and then started honking his horn again. I waited there until they left, then he left, not before he flipped me off while driving away. So at that moment I knew I had to F with him. My other neighbor knows him and told me about the dude. Apparently, he's big in the custom Subaru scene and he does shows and stuff with his car all the time. He has sponsors that sometimes give him parts and they use his car in their ads, I guess. Anyway, it took me a while to come up with some good revenge, so I would do the simple stuff. I had expired milk in my fridge because I really don't drink milk often, but I like cereal occasionally and just had some, so I would start putting a little bit all over his car when I got home. After a while you can smell rancid milk all over it, but that was not enough. I needed a real big F you, so my other friend found out he had this big show coming up and the dude had a photographer come and take pictures of him with his car. The night before the show, I go to AutoZone and get the worst decals and bumper stickers I can find and spend about an hour and a half putting these all around his vehicle. When I was done, it looked horrible. I even did a swastika of Honda, Ford, Lamborghini and Fiat decals on his hood. While nothing I put would not permanently damage his vehicle, it would take hours to take it all off. So about 6 AM, when I guessed he was going to the show, I hear screaming. He is yelling so loud that some other neighbors go outside and see what's up. When they see it's him, they laugh and go back inside. He then called 911 and they show up, but it is not like there's anything they can do. Then the cop actually gives him a ticket for parking in the handicap spot without tax and then they left. Apparently he had to make that show for his sponsors or else they were gonna drop him. Supposedly he was hard to work with and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Now even after all that, the dude still kept parking in the handicapped space. Eventually when I got home from work, I would just start throwing trash on his hood. I once threw a chocolate shake at his windshield. Seeing this car in the handicapped space every night really pissed me off for some reason. Anyways, he eventually moved out. Still hate that guy though. And guys, please let us know in the comments, what would you do if you saw some guy frequently parking in the handicapped spot on purpose, even though he has no business parking there? Would you also throw some eggs or something at his windshield? Let us know your genius revenge in the comments. The next one is titled, Woman Tears Down Our Fence for Satellite TV and 10 years later the police chief is fired as a direct result. July of 2002, when I was 16, our neighbor who was a brat with a capital C decided she wanted to have satellite TV installed. The house she lived in had a very small yard in the back, smaller in front, and the fence that my mother had installed a couple of years ago was only about 5 yards from her side door. The only place the satellite could be installed was on the back of the house, but there was no way the vehicles could make it to her backyard. So in her infinite wisdom, the brat decided to have them tear down our fence and drive over our property to get to her backyard. This starts a huge fight between her and my mother. The brat tries to claim that my mom built the fence too close to her house anyway, and mom produced the land description to prove the fence was in the right spot. Turns out they were both wrong. We knew the woman had built her house too close to the property line, but it seems it was closer than we thought. She was only feet from the line. That fence should have been almost touching the side of her house. Her uncle was the deputy mayor of our small 2,000 population town and she tried to get him involved. Nothing came of it, so we thought it was over. Late September, early October, that same year while I was in school, my mom was taking a shower when our 2 dogs alerted her to someone at our door. She put on a bathrobe and went to see the police chief and about a dozen officers on our lawn, claiming they had been tipped off to a meth lab on the property and demanded to be allowed to search. Mom realized that Brad had to have been the one to call them, as the chief of police was known to be a personal friend to her family. Mom demanded a search warrant and they did not have one, which triggered several hours of them refusing to leave until they searched the property. This all started around 9 or 10 in the morning. Nearing 3 p.m, Mom tells them she needs to pick me up from school and take me to her mother's house because I could not drive yet. They refuse to move their vehicles to let her leave and say it's fine, they will send a squad car to pick me up, which would have just humiliated me, so Mom calls her lawyer, who informs her that if they don't produce a warrant to tell them to leave. So the chief tells her if he goes for a warrant, he will tell whoever issues them that he can smell meth on the property and will be given a warrant for anything he asks for. He will then return, kick our door out of the frame, and if our dogs even look at him for that, he will shoot both of them in the head and kill them both. And yes, he actually said that to my mother. Mom called Grandma to pick me up from school nearly an hour after I'd let out and let the police search the house. They find my mom's gun safe. The safe was one of those made of steel with a circular lock, kind of like on a soda machine, and had the key sitting on top of it. Before anyone says how unsafe it is, it was just my mom and stepdad in the house most of the time. I was an only child and lived with my grandparents and only visited on weekends, and Mom kept the door to her room locked with a key. There was no way anyone under 18 was getting near her guns. The cops proceed to take a crowbar and pry the safe open, even though the key is right there and it is clearly the key to the safe. They then take the guns outside and divide them up. They even take my mom's handgun, which she had a concealed carry permit for. This continued for hours until Mom relented and opened my stepdad's shop building. He was using it to house his motorcycle while he slowly restored it from a wreck about 15 years before. They barely got over the threshold of the door before screaming, "Meth lab!" pointing at the cleaning agents and bottles that were all scooted together. Nothing else, no other signs of meth other than some cleaning agents and empty mason jars sitting near one another. They brought out heavy spot lamps and more cops. By 1 in the morning, my mother had been sitting outside in the cool fall weather in nothing but a bathrobe this entire time. They claimed to have found a MJ plant behind our 6-foot-tall privacy fence that we kept people from seeing us in our hot tub. When I found out about this, I was upset. I was 16 and went to school in a small town. Everyone would know about it. The next day, Saturday, I was piddling around on the internet when a friend messaged me to ask what had happened. And why was my mother in jail? My mother was not in jail. Friend, my mom said it's on the news right now. Mom and stepdad, last name, are sitting in jail this weekend without bond for running the largest drug den in your town's history. When Mom called the news to ask them why they had ran that story without checking, they apologized and said they had been contacted by the town's police and were told to run the story. The next night they issued a public apology for it. I refused to go to school that Monday. It is very important to note that I had not been in school since Friday. On Tuesday, when my grandpa dropped me off, the drug-sniffing dog was at the school. However, as it was close to drug-free week, I thought nothing of it. My business teacher told me she had seen the article in the local paper, but that it looked like it had been staged, and if I caught any trouble for it, to let her know. I went to my locker as the officer walked out of the same hallway, but since that was the hall the principal's office was on, didn't think anything of it. I noticed a locker standing completely open, and when I got to it I realized it was my locker. I blew up on the principal. I understand now that it is not my property, and the school can authorize it being searched, but it was just bullcrap. Why was I being searched? Principal: "No, you weren't searched. You must have left your locker open last night." Me: "Friend 1 and 2 have their lockers next to mine, and they have basketball practice until 4. They shut my locker if I leave it open." I have not been here since Friday. Are you telling me that everyone in this school left a locker standing open for all of Monday? I called my mom and was pulled out of school for Tuesday as well. Ultimately, all the charges were thrown out because of that MJ plant. The chief of police put in his official report that it had been 8 feet tall, and when questioned about it, when they tried to press drug charges on mom, he clearly said, "Yes, Your Honor, it was 8 feet tall." The judge asked him when he found it, and he said about 1 in the morning. The judge then said if there really had been an MJ plant that was 8 feet tall behind a 6-foot tall fence, he would not have needed to demand permission to search the property. The charges were thrown out, and that is where it stood for 10 years. My mom waited and played the long game because she wanted to make fully sure the statute of limitations ran out. She did not want to give him any legal reason to retaliate against her. She waited and waited. Then on the first town council meeting, after the statute ran out, she made contact with one of the council members. In a small town, you don't F with the council members. Everyone knows them and everyone listens to them, or they do here at least. This was the head of the council too, and at the time his grandson was my co-worker, so he knew of me and he liked me well enough since I worked for the largest business in our area. He listened to Mom's story and told her that the last he had heard there was nothing in the evidence locker at the station at the moment, meaning none of the guns they had confiscated had been entered. When she told him most of them belonged to me and were basically family heirlooms, he nodded and asked her that if he could produce those guns, could she prove they belonged to us. Mom said she had a notebook of descriptions of the guns, their serial numbers on the hunting rifles that had scopes, and that 2 of them had distinguishing marks that were hidden from sight, but she could find them and show them off, because my mom loves having a paper trail on everything. He told her she would get them back that Monday. We found out that he went to the station and told the same police chief that because they had never successfully charged us with any crime and that now the statute of limitations had run out, all the confiscated property had to be turned back over to us, but there was a rumor that the guns were not in evidence. He would be in on Monday to have it checked. The police chief went pale, and on Monday they were all in the evidence locker. However, one of them was missing a scope. It came out somehow that the chief of police had never intended to enter them into evidence and had sold them to his friends. He had been thinking he got away with it for a decade until Mom turned back up with proof that they belonged to her and legally had to now be returned. He had to go and buy back every one of them, sometimes paying more than twice what he had been paid because some of these friends had not been speaking to him for some time and one of them had taken the scope off a while back. He was immediately fired and arrested for it. We got our guns back. And Ripe stars, unfortunately we have already reached the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. However, if you cannot wait for more Ripe content, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you can find more exclusive Reddit content read by me. Patreon subscriptions start at just $1 per month, and for $1 your name will show up at the end of each of my new videos. However, if you are willing to spend $3 per month, you will get access to more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos, mostly just no mother-in-law stories. However, please understand, I don't want to pressure anyone into spending money, because I am already incredibly grateful that you watch my videos every single day. Thank you so much for your daily support, it really means the world to me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.